I was dead asleep when the woman upstairs screamed my name, and I'd never spoken to her in my life. Alicia! Alicia! It didn't sound like a question. It sounded like a fire alarm wearing my name. I shot up so fast my neck popped. For a second I thought it was a dream, because my room was that thick kind of dark that pushes on your chest. Then footsteps pounded across the ceiling. A door slammed. Glass rattled. The building went quiet again. Too quiet. Like it was holding its breath with me. I live at Fairview Apartments in Southwest Atlanta. Old brick, peeling paint, neighbors who nod but don't learn your last name. My rent is $950 for a 2-bedroom that's really a 1-bedroom with a small room you pretend is an office. I'm a city bus driver. Early routes. Early nights. I'm not the type to go running into other people's business. But she said my name. I grabbed my phone. My thumb hovered over 911, then I slid out of bed and stepped into the hall. The floor was cold. The stairwell smelled like laundry and old carpet. I stood under the upstairs landing and called, "You okay?" Silence. Then a shaky voice through the floorboards. "He's here." I didn't know who he was. I didn't even know her. Tanya from 3B, the girl upstairs who came and went at odd hours. We'd done the elevator nod, the mailbox smile, nothing more. But my hand was already on the rail. I climbed. At the top, her door was shut. I could hear small sounds inside, the kind you make when you're trying not to make any sound at all. "It's Alicia," I said. "From 2B. Do you want me to call the police?" A pause. The chain slid. The door opened 2 inches. One eye glanced out, brown, wide, scared. She looked past me, over my shoulder, like he might be on the stairs already. "Please go," she whispered. I called 911 anyway from the hallway. 2 officers came, talked low through her door, wrote something on a clipboard, then left. The building tucked itself back into quiet like it didn't want trouble. I went back down and sat on the edge of my bed, wide awake and useless, listening to the radiator hiss. I'm Alicia Brooks, 32. I've been driving MARTA routes for 6 years. I'm good with schedules, bad with people who treat fear like it's a story you make up for attention. I set my alarm for 4:15 a.m. like always, and lay there, staring at the ceiling where Tanya's footsteps had pounded out her panic. When the alarm went off, the scream felt like a knot under my ribs. I did my morning routine. Coffee in a chipped Falcons mug, peanut butter toast, quick shower, hair pulled back. I put my bus keys on the kitchen counter like I always do while I packed my lunch. That's when it happened. The keys weren't on the counter anymore. They were on my nightstand by the bed. I know how that sounds. Maybe I moved them. Maybe I grabbed them without thinking. But I don't do without thinking when it comes to work. If you're late to the 5:30 a.m. pullout, dispatch doesn't pat your back. They put your name on a list. I picked up the keys, stood there with toast in one hand and keys in the other, feeling silly and uneasy at the same time. I checked the front door. Deadbolt set. Chain hanging. Nothing else looked touched. On the drive to the depot, I told myself I was just tired. Tanya's voice was stuck in my head. He's here. Maybe I moved the keys in the dark. Maybe that was it. Ground rule about fear when you drive a bus. You tuck it into a pocket and keep it there until after your shift. People dump their day on you at 6 a.m. Good, bad, all of it. You keep the bus between the lines, keep your voice steady, keep moving. At the depot, Devin sat at the corner table with a paper cup of coffee and the look he gets when he's about to tease me into telling the truth. "You look tight," he said. "Like you slept on your jaw." "Do I?" "Yeah." He lifted one eyebrow. "Something happened?" I told him the short version, the scream, the whisper, the cops, the moved keys. He leaned back and looked at me over the rim. "You should tell Marcus," he said. "My brother will bust down a door if I let him." "And?" I rolled my eyes, but I texted Marcus anyway. "You busy tonight? Need you to look at my locks." He replied in under a minute like he always does for me. "I'll be there by 7. The morning moved like usual. Pre-trip inspection. Air brake check. Mirrors adjusted. Farebox tested. Route 71 Cascade first, then 36 North Decatur. A kid handed me a crumpled dollar with, "Morning, Miss Alicia," like I had time to explain I wasn't a miss anything. An older man told me about his foot that used to be fine until it wasn't. A woman in scrubs fell asleep 2 stops early, and I woke her gently because I hate being startled awake too. By lunch, I had almost convinced myself I'd made a mountain out of someone else's bad night. Then I got home. Miss Loretta King stood in the hallway with her plant mister and her house robe, watering a snake plant that didn't need it. She's 67 and knows who comes, who goes, and what they carry with them. "You hear that ruckus last night?" she asked, eyes bright like news. "I did," I said. "She okay?" "Don't know. Police were in and out." She lowered her voice like secrets live only in whispers. "I've been hearing footsteps on the fire escape some nights. Thought it was a cat. Cats don't wear boots. My bedroom window faces that escape." "What nights?" "Past 2 Fridays. Maybe Tuesday." She squinted. "Didn't think much of it. Thought it was you." "Why me?" "'Cause you got a job that makes you come and go at all hours." She misted the plant again. "Lock your windows, baby." "I do," I said. Inside my apartment, it smelled like old wood and someone else's cooking. I set my keys on the counter, made the small friendly clink I'm used to, and checked the window latches, just because Miss Loretta had crawled under my skin. Everything was locked. I opened the fridge to grab a bottle of water, and a yellow sticky note fluttered out from the seal and landed on the shelf. Small, neat writing. "Not mine. Lock it twice." I stood there with the cool air on my arms. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to say, "Girl, you wrote this half asleep." But the letters were tall and thin, slanted right. Mine are blocky and loud. This wasn't my hand. I checked the front door again, 3rd time in 10 minutes. Marcus came early. He always does when he's worried. He walked in like he owned the place, took one sweep of the room, and set his tool bag on the table. "Tell me." I told him everything. Tanya's scream, the whisper through the door, the officers, the keys that moved, Miss Loretta's boots on the fire escape, the sticky note from the fridge seal. Marcus did that thing where his jaw moves, but he doesn't talk until he's done thinking. Then he went to the door and pushed the deadbolt back and forth, tested the chain, looked at the strike plate, squinted at the screws. "These are the cheap screws?" he said. "1/2 inch, easy to pop. We're replacing them with 3-inch. He pulled a blister pack out of his bag like a magician. "Also getting a better deadbolt. $42 at the hardware store. I'll go now." "Marcus," he put a hand up. "No debate. I'll be back by 7. While he was gone, I did something I haven't done since I was 13 and scared of the dark. I put a chair under the doorknob. I knew it wouldn't stop anyone strong, but I needed to see something between me and the hallway. I also pulled out $20 from my envelope of bus money to hand Marcus for the lock, then hesitated and stuck $60 in my pocket instead. Not because he needed it, because paying for a lock with my own money makes my brain say, "You did something." When he returned, he swapped the screws, installed the new deadbolt, aligned the strike plate so it bit down tight. He tested the chain and frowned. "This chain is a joke. I'm ordering you a bar lock." He glanced at my windows. "And a dowel for that track." "How much?" "Bar's $28. Dowel's free because it's a broomstick I'll cut." He grinned, then turned serious again. "I want you to get one of those little doorstop alarms, too. They're like $16, loud as a fire truck." "Okay." Marcus took a deep breath like he wanted to ask me something but wasn't sure how to say it. "You sure you didn't write that note?" "Positive." "You sure nobody else has a key?" His voice was careful. "I changed the locks when I broke up with Jerome," I said. He gave the spare back. Marcus made a face. "He's been back in the neighborhood. Devin told me." "We aren't doing that again," I said. "Not with Jerome." "Then we're locking it down." He finished around 8:15. We ordered wings, lemon pepper for me, hot for him, $22 with tip. He ate standing up, the way he does when he's still on guard. "I'm staying tonight," he announced. "You have work in the morning. I'll sleep on your couch." We argued for a minute the way siblings do when both are trying to be the strong one. I won, barely. He left after checking every window and door, pointing at me like a coach. "You text me if you hear anything." "Anything," he said. "Or you call. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. "I will," I said, which for us means I really will. I thought I'd sleep after all that. I didn't. I kept hearing the chain slide in my head, even though it was a different chain now. I got up twice to check the door and once to check the windows. I told myself I was doing laps and sat back down on the bed. At some point, the apartment settled and so did I. I must have drifted. Then the smell hit me. Cigarette smoke. I don't smoke. None of my people smoke inside. Miss Loretta smokes outside on the stoop and sprays herself with perfume like that hides anything. The smell wasn't in the hallway. It was in my bedroom. I sat up too fast and the room tilted. The air was thin and stale, lit by the street lamp outside. I held my breath and listened. Nothing. Then soft, the smallest sound, like the scrape of a shoe on metal. The fire escape. I slid out of bed and walked barefoot to the window. My breath fogged the glass. I pressed 2 fingers against the latch. Still locked. I peeled back the curtains slow so it wouldn't whisper. A shadow moved. Not big, not bold. Just a slip of darkness on darkness. I tasted the smoke in the back of my throat. "Hello?" I said before my brain could stop my mouth. No answer. But the smoke thickened like it had a weight to it. I could picture it. Someone standing just out of view, leaning on the rail, watching the glass for any change. I stepped back, grabbed my phone, and turned on the camera without the flash. I snapped a picture through the glass anyway. Probably got nothing but blur. Then back toward the door, trying not to cry, trying not to breathe like I was scared. I wanted to call Marcus. I wanted to call 911. I wanted to hide in the closet and wait for morning. Instead, I did the one thing I could do without moving my feet. I looked down. On the floor under the window, on the carpet where I never leave paper, was a folded note. Yellow. Small. I bent and picked it up with hands that didn't feel like mine. You can't hide. The smell of smoke pressed against the window glass like a face. And that was the moment I realized the worst part wasn't the note or the smell or the shadow outside. It was that whoever he was, he knew my name. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat in my living room with every light on, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the front door like it might start breathing. At 4 a.m., I gave up pretending I could rest. I dressed for work 2 hours early, packed my lunch, and kept glancing toward the bedroom, where the smell of cigarette smoke still clung like an unwanted guest. By the time I walked out, the sun wasn't up yet, but I felt safer on the street than in my own apartment. When I got to the depot, Devin was pouring coffee behind the driver lounge counter. One look at me and he frowned. "You look like you fought a whole weekend and lost." I told him about the note, the smell, and the shadow on the fire escape. His eyebrows knit together. "Alicia, you think it's Jerome?" "Could be." I took the coffee he slid toward me. "Could be somebody else." "Girl, I've been here my whole life. You learn quick. If it feels like somebody's watching you, somebody probably is." I didn't like how sure he sounded. Marcus showed up at my apartment after my shift. I'd told him not to, which of course meant he was there by 3:15. He walked the fire escape with a flashlight, checking every inch. When he came back inside, he dropped something into my trash. A cigarette butt. "Still warm," he said. "Whoever it was, they were out here recently." I felt the room tilt. "Marcus?" "Yeah? That means they came back while I was gone." Oh, he didn't say anything for a long moment, just locked the window again and drew the curtains tight. "We're putting in window alarms tomorrow. I'll buy 'em myself." At 9:30 p.m., Marcus settled onto the couch for the night. I was halfway to sleep when I heard him sit up fast. "Alicia," he whispered, "listen." It was faint, but there, the scrape of a shoe outside my bedroom window. Then the sound of someone shifting their weight. Marcus moved like he was about to throw open the curtains, but I shook my head hard. "Don't. Just don't." The sound faded. After a minute, Marcus muttered, "I swear, if I catch them." But he didn't finish the sentence. The next morning, I called the police again. Officer Renee Harris met me at the door. She was short, stocky, with eyes that looked like they'd seen it all twice. "You filed a report 2 nights ago," she said, flipping open her notebook, "and now you've had more activity?" I told her about the note, the smoke, the footsteps, the cigarette butt. She scribbled fast. "Look," she said finally, "you're not the only woman in this building who's called us in the last 6 weeks. I can't say too much, but we've had reports." "What kind of reports?" She hesitated. "Men hanging around the property, watching." She closed the notebook. "Keep your locks tight. Get those window alarms your brother mentioned. And if anything happens again, anything, call us right away." That night, Tanya knocked on my door. It was the first time she'd come down since the scream. She had sunglasses on, even though the hallway was dim. When she took them off, I saw the purple bruise around her right eye. "I fell," she said quickly, like the words were ready before the door even opened. I didn't believe her. "You need anything?" She shook her head, then glanced toward the stairwell like she expected someone to appear. You should be careful. Some people around here don't like being told no. Before I could ask what she meant, she was already walking away. The next day, Devin slid onto the stool next to me at the bar after my shift. You know who I saw today? He said, voice low. Jerome. I stiffened. Where? By the corner store, talking to some guys I don't know. Asked me if he still lived at Fairview. I told him I didn't know. I clenched my hands. You think it's him? Devin shrugged. He's been in trouble before, and you know he can charm his way into anything. Later that week, I saw Miss Loretta again. She was sitting in the lobby with her newspaper. She looked me over like she'd been waiting to talk to me. That girl upstairs, she said. Her boyfriend ain't right. I paused. Tanya? Big fella, comes around at all hours, I've heard yelling, and once I saw him standing on the fire escape, looking in windows. She shook her head. If you ask me, he's trouble. I didn't know whether to believe her. Miss Loretta had a habit of making everything sound worse than it was, but too many pieces were starting to line up. The following Thursday night, I came home from work and found something waiting for me. A folded sheet of paper slid under my door. I bent to pick it up, heart in my throat. It wasn't a sticky note this time, just a plain piece of white paper, folded twice, no envelope. Inside, in that same tall, thin handwriting as before, were 3 words. You can't hide. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped it. I checked the peephole. Empty hallway. But I swore, in the faint hum of the building, I could smell it again. Cigarette smoke. That night, I couldn't stop replaying Tanya's warning in my head. Some people around here don't like being told no. Marcus came over again, carrying a small box of window alarms under one arm and a crowbar under the other. In case I meet our midnight friend, he said. By 10 p.m., the alarms were installed. They weren't fancy. Little white plastic units that let out a shriek if the magnetic strip pulled apart. Marcus tested one, and the sound was so sharp it rattled my teeth. If this doesn't wake you, he said, nothing will. Around midnight, I heard movement upstairs. Not the normal, someone dropped their keys kind of noise. This was faster, heavier, like 2 people stumbling around. Then came a single loud thump, followed by Tanya's voice. Muffled, urgent. I stepped into the hallway. My ears told me she was right above my bedroom. I was halfway up the stairs when Marcus caught my arm. You're not going up there alone, he said. We knocked. Nothing. Then a shuffling sound and Tanya's voice. I'm fine. But her voice had that brittle edge you only hear from someone who is not fine. Marcus and I exchanged a look. He knocked again. Harder. You sure? Silence. Then the lock clicked, but the door only opened a sliver. Tanya's left eye was swollen now, the purple bruise from before spreading like ink under her skin. I told you I'm fine, she repeated. A man's voice came from inside. She said she's fine. Marcus leaned forward. You her friend? I'm her man, the voice said. The chain lock slid back into place. Door shut. Marcus's jaw flexed. That's the one. The next morning, Tanya's door was wide open. She was gone. No furniture, no clothes, nothing. Miss Loretta was in the hallway, watering her plant. Moved out in the night, she said. He carried every box himself. Didn't even wait for daylight. I didn't like it. People don't just move out in the middle of the night without saying goodbye, especially not when their boyfriend looks like trouble. That evening, Marcus was gone and I was alone. I made myself tea and sat in the living room scrolling on my phone, trying to shake the unease. Then a light tap at my window. I froze. The curtains were drawn, but the sound came again. Tap. Tap. My phone was in my lap. I opened the camera and slid the curtain an inch. A man's face was right there, inches from the glass. I gasped and dropped the phone. The man grinned, slow, wide, then stepped back into the shadows of the fire escape. My hands fumbled for the alarm remote Marcus had left. I hit the button, and the window alarm shrieked through the apartment. The shadow vanished. I ran to the front door, deadbolt already locked, and called 911. Officer Harris came again. She searched the fire escape, but found nothing. Could you ID him? She asked. I nodded, still shaking. Light-skinned, beard, maybe late 20s, wearing a black hoodie. She wrote it down. That matches someone we've been looking for. He's been spotted at multiple apartment complexes. No arrests yet. What about Tanya? I asked. Harris hesitated. She's somewhere safe. It wasn't much, But it was enough to tell me Tanya hadn't left because she wanted to. 2 nights later, I woke at 2:47 a.m. to the sound of my door handle turning. Slow. Deliberate. The new deadbolt held. I crept into the hallway and looked through the peephole. Someone was standing there, not the man from the fire escape. This one was shorter, heavier, wearing a baseball cap pulled low. He was holding something shiny in his hand, a key. I almost made a sound, but I covered my mouth. The key didn't work. He jiggled it, tried again, then gave up. He slipped the key into his pocket and walked away. I watched him leave, but here's the thing. He didn't head for the stairwell. He went into 3B, Tanya's old place. I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the dark on my couch with the lights off, staring at Tanya's old door. Every so often, I thought I heard movement inside, but it was faint, like someone was pacing slowly or shifting boxes. At sunrise, I called Marcus. "You're not going to believe this," I said, and told him everything about the man with the key. Marcus's voice went flat. "I'm coming over." He got there in 20 minutes, coffee in one hand, crowbar in the other. "I'm not saying we break into 3B, he said, "but I am saying if I hear something, I'm not waiting for the cops." We knocked on Tanya's old door. No answer. Marcus tilted his head and pointed, the faint scrape of a chair leg on the floor inside. Someone was definitely there. We called Officer Harris. She arrived quicker than I expected, 2 other uniforms with her. "You're sure you saw someone use a key?" she asked me. "Positive. I was awake. I saw his face." She banged on the door. "Atlanta PD! Open up!" A long pause, then slow footsteps. The door opened, and there he was. Not the man from the fire escape. Not Tanya's boyfriend. It was Jerome. I almost stepped back without meaning to. "Alicia," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, been meaning to talk to you." Officer Harris slid between us. "Sir, you live here?" "Yeah," he said easily. "Moved in last week. My girl told me this was a good spot." I felt my stomach twist. "I'm not your girl, Jerome." His smile flickered. "Didn't say you were." Harris didn't buy his calm act. She asked for ID. Asked how he got the lease. Turned out Tanya's name was still on it. She hadn't broken her lease, just sublet without telling management. When Harris pressed, Jerome started talking too much, like he always did when he was nervous. Said he'd been keeping an eye out for me, making sure no one messed with me. My skin crawled. He'd used Tanya's drama as cover. Playing the protector while being the one who'd been creeping around my windows. Harris ordered him to leave. "Management's going to hear about this," she said. "If you come back here without a lease in your name, we'll be talking in a station instead of a hallway." Jerome glanced at me, eyes cold now. "This isn't over." Marcus stepped forward so fast, Harris had to put a hand out. "Yes, it is," Marcus said. When Jerome was gone, Harris turned to me. "He's been circling for weeks. Hasn't he?" I nodded. "It was him the night I smelled cigarette smoke." "And the notes?" she asked. I thought about the tall, thin handwriting. Jerome's handwriting was big, sloppy. "No," I said. "That wasn't him." Her eyebrows lifted. "Then you've got 2 problems." Later that day, I went to Grady Memorial Hospital to see Tanya. She was sitting in a small counseling room with a blanket over her shoulders, a styrofoam cup of coffee in her hands. "You didn't have to come," she said. "I did," I said, "and I'm sorry I didn't do more when you screamed that night." She shook her head. "You called the cops. That was more than anyone else ever did for me." She told me about her boyfriend, how he'd gotten violent, how Jerome started hanging around right after one of their worst fights, how she thought Jerome might protect her until she realized he was just as bad in a different way. "They both knew where you lived," she said. "That's why I told you to be careful." By the end of the week, Tanya had been moved to a safe address. Jerome was banned from the building. Marcus changed my locks again, added the bar lock, and cut a broomstick to jam in my sliding window track. It should have made me feel safe. And mostly, it did. But some nights, when the city quiets and the air is still, I swear I can smell cigarette smoke again. I've moved my bed away from the window. I keep the alarms on even during the day. And I've learned one thing. You can get rid of a person faster than you can get rid of the feeling they left behind. The last time I saw Miss Loretta, she was watering her snake plant in the hallway. "In the hallway? Things been quiet?" she asked. "Mostly," I said. She nodded, then leaned closer. "You know, baby, sometimes the quiet ones are just waiting their turn." I don't know if she was warning me or just talking about life. But that night, when I checked the peephole before bed, there was nothing but the empty hallway staring back. And still, I double-locked the door, because now I know sometimes the lock is just there to make you feel better. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?